Well, this one is surely going to ruffle some feathers. Let me tell you, I've got an interesting topic that I thought, hey, why not discuss this? In a time of comic book movies kind of dying off, what's a better topic than to discuss who have been the greatest comic book directors over the last 20, 30 years, right? Because let's face it, with comic book movies kind of dying off and we're trying to find a way to bring them back, and studios are like, look, they were huge, let's get them back. We need to get comic book movies back and exciting again. What better way than to say, okay, well, these were the greats. Should we bring the greats back? Should we? So let's pull up the list here. So the best comic book movie director. Who is the GOAT comic book movie director? Hint, it's not Zack Snyder. I know. There's going to be a lot of people out there who think it's Zack Snyder. They are. And, honestly, I get it. I get that there's a lot of people that really want it to be Zack Snyder, and a lot of people who think it should be Zack Snyder, but alas, it is not. He is not. And honestly, it's not even close. And here's the thing. I didn't just sit here and say, oh, I'm going to take a look at what my favorite movies are, or this or that, because if I went off that, look, some of my favorite movies in the comic book genre are Zack Snyder's. So, look, I would have been biased and I would have put Zack in there. But let's face facts. It doesn't just come down to what I like. It comes down to a lot of factors. When it comes to the overall box office and how much money it makes, the impact it leaves on generations, and just kind of how people enjoy the movie overall, and what does it do for the genre as a whole. So, yeah, sure. You have a cult of Restore the Snyderverse fans that it left a mark, but it's more than just that, okay? So number one, let's start with the top. Nolan is the king, but is he really? You see, on paper, Christopher Nolan is kind of the undisputed king of comic book cinema. He directed the Dark Knight trilogy, made $1 billion twice, and even snagged an Oscar, for Heath Ledger. Critics worship him, fans praise him, and in every new Batman movie is still stuck in his long-ass shadow. But here's a hot take. Nolan is a bit overhyped. He's not talented. I mean, he's very talented. Nolan is one of my favorite directors. I see almost every movie he makes, and I love the Dark Knight trilogy. I think the Dark Knight trilogy is very enjoyable to watch. But when it comes down to it, I don't think it's as great as everyone imagine it is. I think it's done a lot more damage to what comic book movies should be than a lot more good. But if you take a look at his average scores when it comes to his comic book movies, you have 89% for Rotten Tomatoes. You have for the critic score, for the audience score, you have 90%. You have an 8.5 out of 10 on IMDb. And then you have a total worldwide gross, money-wise, for the box office of $2.45 billion, with $818 million per film average gross. That's pretty good. That's solid. That is solid. Okay, but is he the best? That's the question. Is he the best? So we move on. Then we have the Russo brothers. Now, they built the Avengers Endgame. Literally. I mean, since Endgame, there's really not been an Avengers. So they literally built their Endgame. They built an ambitious crossover, one of the most, if not the most ambitious crossover in film history. Endgame and Infinity War raked over $4 billion combined. They balanced 30 plus characters better than Snyder handled just 3. They don't have the flair of a Raimi or a Gunn, but damn if they didn't bring the spectacle, because they did. They brought a damn fun movie. 2 films, 3 films out of the 4 that they made, because yes, they made 4 films: Winter Soldier, Civil War, Endgame, and Infinity War. Their average critic score, though, is 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience is at 90% with an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Their total worldwide gross with those 4 films is $6.7 billion, with an average gross per film at $1.67 billion, which is nuts, absolutely nuts. But again, are they the best? Then you have someone like Sam Raimi, who is pretty much almost like the godfather when it comes to comic book movies. He pretty much walks so the MCU could sprint, is what I like to say. Spider-Man 2 is still one of the best superhero sequels ever made. Tobey Maguire's return in No Way Home had audiences cheering, and that's because of Raimi's legacy, not Marvel's. Raimi deserves to be in every top 5 list, no question asked. Now, out of his movies, he's averaging 83% on Rotten Tomatoes with critics, 80% with audience, 7.3 on IMDb, worldwide gross of $3.5 billion, $862 million per film. That's pretty awesome. Sure, Doctor Strange 2 wasn't great, but it did well. It was a fun little entry in the MCU. But yeah, Sam Raimi, excellent director, absolutely should be in the discussion. Then you have James Gunn. James Gunn, this one is going to sting the Snyder cult. James Gunn is ahead of Zack Snyder in nearly every way, and he deserves to be. Gunn took the most irrelevant characters in Marvel's lineup, a talking tree, a raccoon with a machine gun, a dude who dances to pop, 70s pop, and made them legends. Meanwhile, Snyder had Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. He couldn't even crack $1 billion. Gunn's movies are heartfelt, hilarious, and critically beloved. His Suicide Squad reboot did more for DC's cinematic reputation than BVS ever did. And now, he's running DC Studios. His average critic score is 87%, average audience score 85 with a 7.7 on IMDb, total worldwide gross $2.65 billion, average gross per film 662, and this is all before the Superman numbers come into play. So that is fantastic. Fantastic, okay? But we're going to put Snyder in there. We'll put Snyder in there. Because let's not sugarcoat it. Zack Snyder would be dead last in this. At least in the top 5. Most critics hate his movies. I'm not going to say that it's all hate, but look, it's more hate than not hate. Audiences are always split. Studios, except for Netflix right now, who they basically greenlight everything, have lost faith in him. The only reason he's still talked about is because a portion of the internet has made it their personality trait. Yes, Zack Snyder's Justice League was better than the Frankenstein-Whedon version of 2017, but was that really a high bar to achieve? And yes, his fans fought hard for the Snyder Cut, myself included. But it wasn't good enough to save the DCEU, was it? Now, he had his shot. He built his universe. He fumbled it hard. Meanwhile, Gunn has launched his new Superman and rebooted an entire universe to excitement and praise. Nolan's trilogy still gets ranked among the best. Raimi gets standing ovations just for showing up at Comic-Con. And the Russos, well, they made movie history and are coming back to Marvel to attempt and do it again. Snyder, he made Twitter trends and started a civil war in the DC fandom. Ouch. His average critic score is 55%, audience score 70% with a IMDb of 7.2, total worldwide gross of $2.85 billion with an average gross per film of $570 million. Final verdict, well, this is what you get to decide. Nolan, he's critically praised God King, but maybe over-worshipped. Russo's box office destroyers, Raimi the blueprint, Gunn the current architect, Snyder the guy who got one too many shots and still fell short. You don't have to like it, but the numbers don't lie. And no amount of slow motion Jesus poses or restore hashtags will change the fact that when it comes to the best comic book movie directors, Zack Snyder finishes last. Let me know your thoughts though. Who out of these 5 would you consider to be the best comic book director out there? Look, I didn't give you who I think is the best. I didn't say who is the best. I just gave you 5 who could possibly be, well, really 4, who could possibly be the best. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. With all that said, I'll catch you all later.